Finally, an easy moveset video for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. My mental needed the break after all the insanity we've been through recently, and we're only going to be talking about Umbreon and Espeon, the other three Eeveelutions. That's going to be for the next video. That's where things start to get a bit more crazy, but for the most part, Umbreon and Espeon seem relatively untouched, no different for Generation 9, even with Terastalizing. Because I'm trying to think about what Umbreon wants to do with a Tera type, and there's not much. Do you become Steel, so you eat the Fairy hit, but then you keep the Fighting Super? Do you become Poison, and then like you don't get Toxiced by a Toxapex? That's really it. However, the problem with Umbreon is that all of its movesets love the Dark typing. Oh, it hits so many Pokemon. The payback gets strong. If you're running like a Sucker Punch or Foul Play, that also gets strong. And then it's the same Pokemon, pretty much. You go Curse, you do some kind of Sustain Engine, and then you hit them for a billion damage with payback. And because you're slow, actually you want to be slower, so normally like Impish Nature or something like that. But we actually want to go Relaxed for the plus defense minus speed. However, we might... No, actually, we want to do that in kind of all cases, except for some. So I'm like, oh, well, you don't want to be outsped by a Blissey, but it kind of doesn't matter, and you kind of want to get the most damage out of the physical payback onto the Blissey. So, yeah. Minus this, everything outspeeds you. You don't care because you're the fattest Eeveelution tank, and then you throw back curse-boosted 100 base power stab damage on them. Do you go Dark Tera? Nah, I feel like if you're also running a setup tank like this, you want to have a sweeper Pokemon for that Terastalization, just like super backing up the Umbreon. As for the EVs, max out hit points. You kind of do whatever. Do you just need a dedicated physical tank? Alright, go dedicated physical tank. Do you need a balanced tank? This seems to be the way to go. Do you want to do some other weirdness because of whatever Pokemon are common and that just becomes like a meta crazy EV split? Keep an eye out for it. As for the ability, Inner Focus, I feel like there's going to be a lot of flinch, cheese, and shenanigans. I talked about that really nasty Persian set, so probably just better to not get flinched. But if you find that every time you throw out the Umbreon, you're eating some kind of very crucial status, then yeah, Synchronize. Go for it. That works just fine. Wish, Protect, Chesto, Resto, do whatever you want, scale to infinity, win the game. We also have like a couple of other options that the Umbreon can run. Just, you don't always want to have a setup tank. Now, personally, I love having almost all setup tanks because it's just a win condition. That if your opponent sleeps for 1 or 2 turns, like not literally sleeping except for yawn, but like if you catch them with their pants down, that they get married to a strategy, that they overcommit, that you just catch them on like some really interesting switches and whatever, and you just get in on one curse, and then they have to switch, and then you have a second curse, and they don't have a strong enough special attacker, you just won the game for doing nothing except for bringing in a Pokemon that can set up just a little bit. So I like always having that option. However, it is good to where if they have something that is setting up, if they already have like a lot of pressure that you can't set up into, then if you just respond to them, also really nice. Like Yawn, any Eeveelution is absolutely devastating to tank, set up, stall, anything like that, and then you still have options. So you're not going for like crazy damage ramping on the curse, unless you want to. You know, you could just get rid of Snarl, put in Curse, and then have Curse payback with a moveset like this. Moonlight instead of Chesto, Resto, Wish, Protect. The thing about Wish is that it can also heal your ally Pokemon. It has much more PP, which is also a very big upside to it. So bigger PP on the Umbreon, going to be more consistent in battles. So we have Wish, Protect. That's just going to eat a lot of opponents' powerful moves, as well as give you a lot more longevity than 8. Unless they do some kind of changes. Like, we already saw Rest going down to 8 in one of the trailers, so keep an eye out for any just larger changes to the game. But yeah, Moonlight, Foul Play, Curse, Payback, whatever. Yawn, just shutting down any kind of setup. Like, they're trying to set up into you, and you go, nah, and yawn them, and then you're just having a good time. So maybe you don't need those extra 8 heals because you're just winning on demand. You can still have leftovers. Rocky Helmet is really nice to like combo into Foul Play damage. They hit you with a strong physical hit. You don't care because you're Umbreon. You can go for special defense investment. You can go for defensive investment. You don't care because you're Umbreon. Snarl's just there to calm down any calm mons the opponent might be throwing, to also just slow down an oppressive, like, Life Orb, or Choice Specs, or Tera boosted special attacker. Like, if you can eat that hit, get into the Snarl, start healing off the Moonlight, that's also going to be really nice. So, yeah, we're dealing with the same Umbreon, effectively. The only thing that might be different is if all the Eeveelutions get Calm Mind from Pokemon Legends having different mechanics, but it kind of would just make sense that Eevee learns Calm Mind or gets access to the Calm Mind, then everyone can get it because other Eeveelutions have it. Why not? It would also be kind of interesting to see these Pokemon get a bit more power put into them because, you know, full Eeveelution teams, every once in a while they win. Sometimes people run like 2 Eevees and then they just have like a really good time in a battle because of the synergy with the rest of their team. But overall, like, stat profile, good, not the best. Kind of getting power crept out of the game. So yeah, why not just give the Eevees Calm Mind and then have them be a more higher tier threat in general. If Calm Mind becomes a thing, Citrus Berry for the setup, so you go Calm Mind Curse, however much you want. Moonlight, Calm Mind Curse, whatever, Payback, that's our big damage engine. GG easy. Inner Focus helps for the setup. Synchronize we already talked about. The only problem is if you get burned, it's going to really suck. If you get Toxic, it's going to really suck. That was the whole thing about Chesto Resto. But then again, like, I can't think of a Tera type for this Pokemon. You are just running Nasty Tank. Whether you want free Nasty Tank, no setup, shut down the opponent, or set up and win, that's up to you. That's up to your team composition. That's up to your other man, I tried to say Tera Pokemon terastalizing at the same time. It doesn't really work. That's up to your other Terastal Pokemon. Maybe just depending on your team comp, you throw in like, oh, it would actually be really cool if I had a Water-type Skarmory on my team. And then you just have Water Umbreon for whatever reason. Maybe Fire, so you don't get burned. I don't know. But you are going to be taking a hit on your damage setups. Espeon. Espeon also the same. Like, what else do you do on Espeon except go Timid Nature, outspeed everything you can, hopefully like a tank or just a very thick bruiser Pokemon beat down the fastest Pokemon on your opponent's team. Now Espeon comes in. What can they do? You set up a Calm Mind against Special Attacker, Life Orb, boosted damage, Psychic, destroys everything, Dazzling Gleam, supers into Darks, Morning Sun, just so you have like a little bit of sustain, Magic Bounce. Oh, the Magic Bounce is worth running Espeon on its own. You see them going to throw status. They're going to go for some kind of Stealth Rocks, maybe a Taunt, maybe whatever. Espeon comes in for free. They just lost something, like they just went minus. They might have to switch out. Like if you can Magic Bounce a Yawn, like you really want to use it. Spore not so much, because that's going to be against grass Pokemon. They're immune to their own Spore and stuff. But like if you can just get that in, get that Calm Mind, now you're very, very threatening. Whenever we do talk about Life Orb, we need to make sure we are correct on how the damage numbers work. Sometimes people just splash in a Life Orb on a Pokemon where it doesn't matter at all. So let's go and bring in a Psychic, and then we can see the damage. So against just a average-ish sweeper, ignore the speed, but like 65, 95, 75, 80, you know, something like that on a setup. How much damage are we doing? 73%. And this is what I mean by Life Orb trapping. Is Life Orb worthless in like another Pokemon because a 2-hit KO becomes a 2-hit KO and then we're taking 10% damage? However, we do have the Calm Mind. So in this case, it's okay because you are planning on the Calm Mind. So Life Orb now 73%, again 2-hit KO, but add the +1 and now we're KOing those Pokemon. What about something like a Cinderace? Alright, we are just wrecking a Cinderace, and then we gotta go to Silvally, just a really good kind of, hey, this is a thick boy, you're not gonna find Pokemon that are like this naturally fat, especially on like that sweeping kind of tier. How much damage due to the Silvally? Not enough to KO after that, but maybe it's got a Life Orb, maybe it took some chip. So you can still see like we have very healthy, strong levels of damage. What does that mean? 85, 95, not quite a KO. 85, 90, those are the KO ranges. And then what does that mean for something like the Garchomp? Garchomp, not directly KO'd. If it's running like some kind of speedy Swords Dance, but then it's capped at 102. If it has a Life Orb, then it's going down to its Life Orb. You also don't have to stop at 1 Calm Mind on the Espeon, depending on how your opponent's team looks. And then I'm just thinking like, other than that, Sucker Punch scary, get rid of all the opponent's fast Pokemon. I like running cheeky, super cheese, stupid Espeon, where you just get a little tanky, you outspeed everything, but now you have a fast Reflect, now you have a fast Calm Mind. Why not Light Screen? Because we have Baton Pass. So why have a temporary boost to special defense when you can put an effective permanent boost to special defense on a different kind of Pokemon? But you don't want to be cursing on the Espeon, so we're not. It's going to be a little different there. You set up, you outspeed, you set up the Reflect, you get crushed by physical Pokemon, doesn't matter, take the hit, half damage, Key Berry comes in, also reducing the damage further, you Morning Sun, you Calm Mind twice, you Baton Pass, Pokemon's coming in, +1 defense, +2 special defense, +2 special attack, now they're just ridiculous, and you have like a turn of Reflect left. So yeah, you do this also, because like the Morning Sun and everything, like you can refresh it, while your Pokemon gets knocked out, Espeon comes in. If it's ideal, maybe it just sets up Reflect and Baton Passes. Well, you don't have to Baton Pass off the Reflect. You can hard switch at that point. But yeah, and then like other Morning Sun, Calm Mind ends. This just becomes an annoyance. And okay, you have no moves, but does that matter if you're now putting these stats onto a different Pokemon and then they're winning the game? So 4 move slot, Taunt Bait. Actually, you're not Taunt Bait because of Magic Bounce. So it's whatever. You don't want this to be your last Pokemon. If you actually like need a hard switch where it's like, okay, I switch out, this Pokemon's going down, but then it gives me a lot of momentum for just like a fresh in on a new Pokemon, this works. So even as it's going down, it kind of doesn't turn into a hard minus. Awesome. So yeah, that's some cheesy stuff. And then Yawn, like every Pokemon that can use Yawn can use it. If you have like a full Eeveelution team and 5 of them have Yawns, you're never getting set up on, so the opponent is just going to have a miserable time. And then again, that just kind of goes into the other Eeveelution video I did, which is kind of like a precursor to this one. If you haven't seen the first one, you need to watch it. Kind of sets up everything about it, where you need to think about all the type synergies for a Pokemon that already represents a lot of types and then can become any type with Terastalization. So you build an Eeveelution team around that, and you actually just have one of the strongest cores in Pokemon. Yawn on a lot of them, gonna be really nice. Vaporeon can Yawn, Jolteon can outspeed and Yawn, Espeon can Yawn and then like set up something, Umbreon can Yawn and set up, or just be an anti-stall, anti-tank Pokemon. As for Terastalizing, I don't know, do you like need to Terastalize the Espeon? If you do, I'd say just go Psychic. That way you just have mega, super, giga amounts of damage. Oh, what's that? Toxapex is coming in? You just Tera Psychic, and then you blow it up harder than anything's ever been blown up. Also, Magic Bounce. Kind of weird that we didn't see a lot of Espeon Sword and Shield, even though Toxapex was pretty strong. Also, not a lot of Espeon in Pokemon Sun and Moon, despite Toxapex being really strong. I don't know so much about why not in Generation 7, but Generation 8, Dynamax kind of messed up everything. Like, Dynamax made a lot of Pokemon not viable and made a lot of other Pokemon very viable out of nowhere. And I don't think Espeon, like, you don't want to Dynamax an Espeon, but you also don't want to have an Espeon in the face of a Dynamax Pokemon, especially if everyone's getting free speeds from Windstream and stuff. Then now the 110 speed just gets speed crept out. Doesn't exist anymore. Less status, less impact like that. So actually, Eeveelution's going to get a lot stronger without Dynamax. And then that also means, like, oh, if Espeon is just more playable, Toxapex has a very bad time. So that might be significant. But then also the problem with Espeon is that, well, you go Toxapex, fine, I'll just switch out my Toxapex into a Blissey. Switch out my Toxapex into a Skarmory, now you lose the game. So maybe what you would want is Fire. Like, Psychic Fire sounds weird, but ends up working for tanks. You don't want to get walled by a Skarmory. You don't want to get walled out by a Ferrothorn. You don't want to get walled out by insert whatever Pokemon here. You want to do more damage to a grass Pokemon that doesn't have Psychic attached to it. When you look at it, yeah, Psychic doesn't affect Darks. A lot of not very effectives going on. But if we add in the Fire, little better. Slowbro might be like super playable. We don't know the status on Starmie, but if Starmie's in the game, that's going to be pretty powerful. So yeah, like, Dark Water, reduce Dex, maybe this just kind of works. Or also you just use it to respond to very specific things. Just because you have a Tera type on a Pokemon doesn't mean you have to use it. Do you have Fire Espeon for 2% of battles that just completely go south? Uh-oh, Skarmory is running away. Uh-oh, Ferrothorn's running away. I can't, like, every time I try to deal with their Toxapex, they just switch against my Espeon because there's no threat. Yeah, there you go. That's how you do it. Even though, like, yeah, Skarmory kind of doesn't want to go into the Magic Bounce, and same with Ferrothorn, but you can't do anything to it eventually. So, yeah, like, Espeon actually probably just gonna be viable. Just straight viable. You get one turn in on a status, and then you can set up crazy damage, crazy Tera combos, and just win. So that's what I mean. Easy video. These Pokemon are effectively the same. You just have to think about how they respond to what people are going to be trying to plot in this meta. GG easy. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.